Uh, Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you. The purpose of this session is to perhaps go through a study and also consultation, asking questions, and unravel the mysteries which are within the book called Kitáb-i-Íqán, or the Book of Certitude. I wanted to first provide you a historical context to know why this book is important. Then I will touch upon the relevance of this book for today and in relation to the present crisis that we have. And then at the third part, I try to go on some of the content of this book that you can become familiar with it for the next sessions. Since the program is being recorded, so I think there is no need to take a lot of notes. Rather, if you are attentive and you prepare your questions, that will be most useful. Do you know, Bahá'u'lláh has revealed over 100 volumes of writings according to his own testimony in Epistle to Son of the Wolf, which was his last book before his ascension in 1892. From 1853, you see the pen of Baha'u'lláh starts revealing tablets after tablets. You know that the declaration starts 1853, but there are evidences that Baha'u'lláh has revealed many tablets before 1853. We know that during Badash, he has revealed tablets for each of the participants that were attending. We also are aware now, based on the evidences that we have in research department and other sources, that in fact there was communications between Bab and Baha'u'lláh on various topics. So as you can see, when we talk about the writings of Baha'u'lláh, you are talking about the ocean of many, many thousand tablets. It starts from Tehran, and then it goes to Baghdad, then it goes to Constantinople, and then it goes to Adrianople, and then it goes to Akka period. Baghdad period and Akka period seems to be two periods that are very, very significant in understanding the message and the mission of Baha'u'lláh. Many tablets were revealed in Baghdad. The most important book was Íqán. In fact, the Book of Certitude, or Kitáb-i-Íqán, is considered the most important work of Baha'u'lláh after the Kitab al-Aqdas. are several reasons why we have to pay attention to Iran. You know, it was revealed between 1861 to 62, about a year and a half, 2 years before the actual declaration in the Garden of Rezvan. There are many tablets by Bahá'u'lláh that talks about Iran and the importance of this war. In fact, there is a tablet by Bahá'u'lláh addressed to Mirza al-Faza'il, that when Mirza al-Faza'il asked some question, Bahá'u'lláh emphasizes that he and others should read the Kitáb-i-Íqán, because majority of the problems that humanity in the field of theology is facing is enshrined in Iqan. Kitáb-i-Íqán also you see in many other tablets of Baha'u'lláh that have been referred to. In fact, you can see in the last book of Baha'u'lláh, that is Epistle to Son of the World, or Loh Sheikh, Baha'u'lláh again pays attention to the fact that if somebody wants to understand the mysteries of the symbols, the meanings of the verses of the old scriptures, Kitáb-i-Íqán is the book to pursue. This book also in the writings of Abdul Baha has been noted a lot. In some answered question, Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'lláh, for those of you who may not know who he is, he several times refers to Kitáb-i-Íqán in order to understand the concepts such as return, such as resurrection, and so forth. Abdul Baha also in his public talks that you can find in the proclamation of the universal peace, you see that he refers to this book several times and encourages the Baha'is and non-Baha'is to read the book. It is very important to note that this book is not intended for the Baha'is. In fact, nothing that Baha'u'lláh has revealed is only for the Baha'is. Baha'u'lláh makes that important point in his tablet, which is called Loh Dunya, Tablet of the World. He says, although I may address individual or a group, but the actual addressee is the people of the world. So then the books, tablets, letters, everything that we have, they do not belong to Baha'is, rather it belongs to the people of the world. And within that context, we need to look at the writings of Baha'u'lláh as a whole. Shoghi Effendi very much emphasizes Iqan. He, in fact, in several letters, emphasizes that if you want to understand the fundamentals of the Bahá'í Faith, you need to study Iqan over and over. Shoghi Effendi, when he talks about the importance of deepenings, he lists some major works that every Bahá'í, especially the youths, should prove. One of them is Kitáb-i-Íqán. One of them, of course, is some answer question. One of them is Dawnbreaker or Nabil's narratives and so forth. The House of Justice, in the compilation which is called Deepening, you can see several passages by beloved Shoghi Effendi that emphasizes the importance of reading this book. No wonder that Shoghi Effendi in God Passes By, in fact, considers this book to be next to others. That means any person who has any problem in theology, Íqán is the key. In one context, you can say that this is a book which Daniel was speaking of when he said that many mysteries are sealed until the time of the end. And according to Shoghi Effendi, Íqán is that book which was opened. In Quran, they are talking about the symbolic verses, and the symbolic verses that have interpretation, such as resurrection, such as attaining to the presence of God, such as Jesus comes on the cloud, such as angels, such as the seal of the prophet, and you name it. Quran, in one surah, chapter, mentions that this is a part of a sealed bond. And again, it is noteworthy to pay attention to the fact that Bahá'u'lláh in Kitáb-i-Íqán, paragraph 5, when he says, do not think we have revealed the mere codes of laws, nay, we have unsealed the sealed wine. Perhaps one of the meanings of that sealed wine meant those parables, those mysterious verses that the people over the centuries had problem understanding. And it seems Kitáb-i-Íqán to be one of the writings that emphasizes that part of unsealed wine. This book, I do not want to go on the importance of this book, but it is important that Baha'u'lláh revealed a work prior to Íqán called Gems of Divine Mystery. And that work, Jawahir al-Asrar, which was published by the Bahá'í Faith Center under the instruction of the Universal House of Justice, that book is mentioned by Baha'u'lláh in Íqán to be the one that contains the topics, concepts, themes that Baha'u'lláh in Íqán expands on. In fact, he tells the recipient that I have already revealed the same topics in an Arabic language, because Gems of Divine Mystery is revealed in an Arabic language, and he says, now I reveal it in Persian tongue. So as we can see, again, there is a history. So one key element to pay attention, if I were you, is to read the Gems of Divine Mystery, to appreciate as a prelude to Kitáb-i-Íqán, or the Book of Certitude. You know, historically, it is also important to understand where Iran is in terms of its contents. You know that recipient was a Muslim. Recipient was, in fact, one of the uncles of the Bab. Bab had 3 uncles. This is a history lesson. All of you know it. I do not want to repeat what you already know, and you know it better than me. But 3 uncles, Sayyid Ali, accepted Bab, and also he laid down his life in his path, and he was one of the 7 martyrs of Tehran. The second uncle was Sayyid Muhammad, who actually very close to Bab. Bab was his nephew, but he was puzzled by the declaration of the Bab because he had so much expectation from the Promised One, based on the traditions, based on what the cultural expectation was, and so forth. So he actually did not accept Bab immediately. There was another uncle, which was Hassan Ali, the youngest one, who also in the beginning didn't accept Bab. They had challenge. The mother of the Bab, as you know, after the martyrdom of the Bab, became very saddened, heartbroken. So she went to find solace and refuge next to the shrine of Imam Hussein, one of the illustrious Imam of Islam. And these 3 brothers, who actually their sister, who was the mother of the Bab, 2 of them decided, Muhammad and Hassan, to go and visit the sister. And while they were there, one of them, Sayyid Muhammad, he was approached by one of the believers who was a very, very close friend of the family, Haji Sayyid Jawad Karbala'i, and they met, and Bahá'u'lláh was informed by Sayyid Jawad that the uncles of the Bab are in town, and Bahá'u'lláh immediately asked, did you invite them? And he went and invited them. The youngest uncle said, no, I have nothing to do with this. I'm going to go back to Iran. And the Ali Muhammad, he said, I will go and attain the presence of Bahá'u'lláh. We have actually a tablet by Bahá'u'lláh addressed to a believer called Ibn Astaq that explains how the uncle came, what was the conversation about. We also have the writing of the uncle addressed to his son that explains the meeting. It seems that the uncle, with the purity of heart, opens up to Bahá'u'lláh, saying that, I love this man. He is a part of my being, but I also have a belief system. What happened to all those prophecies and this and that? Baha'u'lláh kindly asked the recipient notes in his writings that Baha'u'lláh was very humble, Baha'u'lláh was very kind, Baha'u'lláh was very much supportive, asked him, please stay tonight and pose your questions. We have the questions that the uncle asked. Mainly the questions had to do with the promised one of Islam. They were expecting the Qa'im, the one who rises, to come and expand Islam, does not bring a new faith, new book. He has to have power all over the world. He should not be meek and he should not be murdered. He should create justice in the world. He also believed in a finality of Muhammad, the seal of the Prophet, and most importantly, he said, what happened to Qiyamah, resurrection? What happened to the dead who have to rise from their graves? And. Baha'u'lláh, within the span of 2 days and night, he revealed a book which originally was titled as a treatise to the uncle, the Saleh Khal. Later on, Baha'u'lláh himself considered this book to be the Book of Certitude or Kitáb-i-Íqán. I would like here to pause and mention one very important thing that each reader, each researcher should consider. There is a context and there is a content when you read any writings of Baha'u'lláh. I show you what I mean by using Íqán as an example. As I mentioned, historically, a recipient was a Muslim background. Therefore, you see Íqán uses mainly Quran and tradition. You may ask if something, a book which belongs to the people of the world, why it has to use Quran or tradition. This is where your understanding and differentiation of context and content come into play. That is to say, the context might be Islamic, the context might be a questioner of Quranic background, but the content is universal. Please pay attention to this, because this is going to be a very useful tool for you when you read the tablets. For instance, when you read the tablet called Loha Aqdas, or tablet to the Christian, the first tablet which you can find in tablets of Baha'u'lláh revealed after the Kitáb-i-Íqán. You see that Baha'u'lláh mainly quotes, refers the verses of the Bible. So you may say, oh, why is he quoting Bible? Because the recipient came from that background. So one thing which is very significant, anything that you read, this is just a token that I'm giving you because I have used it and it has been successful as a a student of the Bahá'í Faith and a researcher, a humble researcher of yours. Whatever you read, ask yourself, what is the universal message that this passage is going to convey? And if your understanding of that passage helps you with the ultimate mission of Bahá'u'lláh, that means you are close to the intention of Bahá'u'lláh. That is to say, anything that you read, if it has the meaning, supporting principle, to help you to appreciate the oneness of humanity, to create justice, to create peace, you understood the meaning for the content. Otherwise, you have localized the tablet. Then you have localized the meaning. And then you have actually violated the ultimate goal of the revelation, which is, he says, let your vision be bold, embracing, rather than confined to thine own self. Loghe dunya. So then within that context, if you read Íqán, you have to ask yourself, what are the universal messages that Íqán is trying to give us? How many minutes do we have?
We have plenty. Just go on, please.
Go on. They are not sleeping, are they?
No, everybody's listening.
Okay, very good, very good. Now I want to emphasize what is the relevance of Íqán. Here and now, 21st century, in Los Angeles, New York, Australia, coronavirus, what does Íqán do to us? This is a very important question. I am a psychotherapist, and you have to look at religion not in a traditional way anymore. And you should not think that whatever you believe, necessarily the whole world has to believe. This is the root of fundamentalism. You have to learn what the Bahá'í Faith is all about, and then be able to offer it to humanity in the spirit of humility. Humility that is not crafty. Humility that you offer the writing like you offer a gift to the king. You do not talk to a king casually. You do not think you are better. You don't think you are saved. You actually consider yourself lower than the dust, as Bahá'u'lláh himself did. But the message that you give should be the one that is unifying. One of the problems of 21st century is that religion, the way that the people have learned to pursue it, to be very honest with you, doesn't work. In fact, this process started from the time that church was running the world. You remember those days, which we call Renaissance, when Galileo was in prison because his investigation did not match the literal interpretation of clergy's. Pope, when they inquired what's the problem, he said, I have no problem. I look at the telescope, and telescope tells me that this earth is not the center of the world. He said, well, your problem is that you look at into telescope, so you shouldn't look at the telescope. And you know that the poor man came and said, yes, okay, you are right, but Mr. Earth or Miss Earth, you know that you are actually going around the sun. You know that no longer, when Darwin showed up and wrote that Origin of a Species, which I highly recommend you as a Baha'i, you need to read these books. Why? Because beloved Shoghi Effendi says, in order not to become self-centered, not to become egotistical, in order for your vision to be bold embracing, for every Baha'i book, literature, you need to read some non-Baha'i books. Why? In order to be able to relate to the world. So at the time when Galileo came, when Darwin came, when Freud came, then the world was different. Then you could not say God created heaven and earth in 6 days, and then on the 7th day he got tired and rested. You had to read the Genesis in a different light. You cannot say it means what it says what it means. You cannot say, and hopefully the Baha'is do not say, you believe it or not. If you do not believe it, this is what it says. If you don't believe it, something is wrong with you. Maybe you are insane. Because faithful do not ask questions. When they become Baha'i, they put a sign in front of their forehead and they say mind for rent. Because we do not think anymore. But Baha'i Faith is not that. Baha'i Faith is based on personal inquiry. Baha'i Faith is based on question. And those people who think questioning is bad, they have to remember all of the writings of Bahá'u'lláh, except a few, is actually answer to the question. Bahá'u'lláh himself, in 7 Valleys, invites people. He says, ask questions. If you do not ask questions, you become fundamentalists. Please pay attention. There is a difference between certitude, believer, faithful, and fundamentalists. We believe in fundamentals, but we are not fundamentalists. But as you know, by appearance of these great thinkers between 15th to 18th century, religion became something of the past, because everything was questioned, even the existence of God. The God, G-O-D, that we bow down, who has a heaven, who has a hell, who creates the world and then brings coronavirus, and then you have to pray to him, please, please, remove the coronavirus for us. That God is long dead. And perhaps Nietzsche, in his famous word, gay science, God is dead. But you know that neither Darwin, neither Nietzsche, neither Kant, neither Galileo, none of them opposed God. They said, change your definition. I invite you to read a book called History of God, to see how the definition of God changes over time, by Karen Armstrong. You also learn that depending on who you are, your definition changes. A mystic's definition of God is different from a literate definition of God. But something was very, very, very clear. You could not accept anymore that the star shall fall. Matthew chapter 24 was only good to be given as sleep tales that the people can sleep by. that a star shall fall, everybody cries, and then suddenly Jesus shall come on the cloud. Well, what is cloud? What is a star? What does it mean by the world goes into chaos? All of these things led people to forsake religion, because religion could not anymore satisfy the meaning of the people. Search for meaning of Viktor Frankl required the will to meaning by the same author. You have to search for meaning. These tales were not going to help you. The book by Freud, Future of an Illusion, was suggesting that the God and religion was only for the people who are weak, the people who do not use their mind, the people who just like to somehow use religion as a defense against insanity. As you can see, all of these things led to the appearance of the Bab. See, I gave you the historical context. Somebody has to explain who is this God, because until now, the God was a personal God. Personal God has two definitions. One definition of personal God, which is negative, is that a God who looks like me, who has an ear, who has a mind, who gets angry, who gets happy, who has a heaven, he has a hell. If I am a bad guy, I go to hell. All of you are a good guy, you go to heaven. And it was just a psychological mess. And then you could see that the God was actually the sign of the thief. Bab and Bahá'u'lláh, ladies and gentlemen, came at the time that everything had to be redefined. In a religious term, as Bahá'u'lláh says in Íqán, the new heaven, the new earth, the new mind, the new heart had to be created. Bab in Persian Bayan, his chief book, he tries to address all of those questions. That is to say, Persian Bayan perhaps is the first book that Bab, for the first time, tries to explain that that God of Nietzsche, the God of Freud, and all those people were right. That God is gone. The God cannot be defined. God doesn't operate by time and space. You cannot say he created in 6 days. It doesn't come to reality. Physics and physicists realize that those stories do not fly anymore. So Bab started that process. In Persian Bayan, he tried to explain all this. He did not end Persian Bayan as he intended. He wanted to have 19 chapters. Each chapter has 19 sections, Wahed Bab, but he did not really finish it. In one of the tablets, when they asked him, who is going to finish it? He said, the one whom God shall make manifest. Kitáb-i-Íqán, ladies and gentlemen, is actually one of the title of it is Mutammamul Bayan, means the book that completes bayan, because the concept, topics, themes are exactly the continuation of what Bob started. So what is the relevance now? And then I want to end it, that question and answer start. We cannot look at religion the same way as before. We cannot say our prophet is the best prophet, is the no prophet is like him. All of these comparative stories, which doesn't have any values anymore. You see that now, when you get attached to one prophet, you actually lose the same prophet that you get attached to. Because the reality of the prophets offer you everything but attachment. Bahá'u'lláh offers you contentment, but not attachment to his personality. In fact, by Bahá'u'lláh, we do not mean personality. Bahá'u'lláh is an energy. Bahá'u'lláh is a creative force. Bahá'u'lláh is that force that emanated all the manifestations of God. Bahá'u'lláh, at the time of Moses, used Moses as a vehicle. At the time of Abraham, he used Abraham. Bahá'u'lláh is a primal will. Bahá'u'lláh is neither this or that. Bahá'u'lláh doesn't have a beginning nor end. These are the concepts that we call manifestations. This is a new concept. God is unknowable essence. Nietzsche was right. The God which looks like me, has a feeling like me, is actually my own creation. This is why Feuerbach, a philosopher, contemporary of Baha'u'lláh, when he wrote a book called The Essence of Religion, he said, we have been told that God created man in his image. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I have a news for you. Man made God in his own image. That is a negative aspect of personal God. But personal God also has a positive connotation. And that is what Shoghi Effendi emphasizes in God Passes By, when he says God is unknowable but personal. By personal means that you have a personal connection to it. It creates transformation. Although you cannot define it, because when you define it, it ceases to be God. When you feel it, its impact, that is personal God. When you reach God one way, I reach God another way, and we do not judge each other, that is a personal God. When we remember that according to the number of people on the face of the planet, there are ways to connect to God, according to Muhammad and according to Bob in the Tablet of True Seeker, the Saleh Salute, that means that is a personal God. That means the way that I get touched by God, it might not be the way that you touch. You should not put yourself at the center of the universe and think everybody has to accept and feel God like you. Bahiya Nakhjavani, the daughter of Ali Nakhjavani, the ex-member of the Universal Laws of Justice, a teacher, mentor of mine, whose soul is sanctified. She has a book, read it, asking questions, challenge to fundamentalism. She does not only address the others, because always one of the signs of the fundamentalist is that always thinks others are fundamentalists. I am all very clear thinker, I'm a scientist, I'm a psychologist, only Farshad might be fundamentalist. No, fundamentalists can appear in a different shape and sizes. When you do not allow your mind to flourish, you are fundamentalist. When if somebody asks you a question, you start saying, okay, how long have you been a Baha'i? Is your daddy was a Baha'i? Maybe you're a new Baha'i. Just answer the question. So as you can see, Íqán actually brings new meaning to these old dogmas. A resurrection, Passover. Do you remember last week? Friday, Jesus was crucified, and then Sunday, he was resurrected. Do you really want to believe these things? And if I don't believe it, you curse me, and then if you are a good person, you just put me on your prayer list. You say Habib is really diverse, so we'll let read some prayers. Baha'u'lláh says, hold on. Jesus died? What do you mean Jesus died? Is there any difference between Jesus and Christ? Jesus as a man was born, Jesus as a man shall die. Mirza Hussain Ali was born, Mirza Hussain Ali shall die. But the reality of Jesus was Christ. Christ is an equivalent name for Baha'u'lláh. Christ is an equivalent name for the Word in John chapter 1, verse 1. Before Abraham was, I am. If you would have known Moses, you would have known me. All these things is explained in Íqán. He died and then he was resurrected after 3 days. Why 3 days? Why not immediately? Was really Jesus was resurrected, or the people who thought he was dead, they were resurrected? Wasn't there a spiritual awakening that is called resurrection? Wasn't that the people who were attached to the physical existence of Jesus and they were forgetful of the reality of Christ within Jesus, they had to be reawakened? Wasn't there, according to Abdul Baha, Mary Magdalene actually started to tell the disciple, get up, Jesus is with us. So as you can see, these are a spiritual meaning. And this is in Quran, in Íqán. He shall come on the clouds. What cloud? For sure, Los Angeles is not a good target for him to return. Most of the time it's sunny weather. So, is it really cloud? What is cloud? Baha'u'lláh explains in Íqán. By cloud means when you do not look at the reality and look at the appearance. Cloud is when you look at Jesus, you see how feeble he is, how weak he is. You look at Baha'u'lláh, he gets fever, he becomes poison, his hand shaken. But that is a cloud. But reality of Baha'u'lláh doesn't have a hand to shake, cannot be poisoned, is eternal in the past, eternal in the future. That is the reality. These are all in Íqán. So there is a reason perhaps that Baha'u'lláh in a tablet he says, please when you come to my presence, don't bow, don't kiss my hands. There is a reason that when one person Christian background wanted to go and meet with him personally, Baha'u'lláh said, no, don't come. Just ask questions. Lohe Hertik. Go and look it up on Google, who was Hertik. And then Baha'u'lláh emphasizes the reason that I do not want to see you because of your expectation. You look at me, you think I'm Jesus. While when you look at me, I'm that cloud. Reality of me is within me. This is why we are follower of lights, not follower of the lamps. These lamps can change, according to Abdul Baha in some answer question. Abdul Baha even goes further to say those people who follow the personage, they are foolish. But those who follow the light, they are actually enlightened. So, to make a long story short, this was the introduction of the relevance of Íqán. Íqán is the only book that I know of, ladies and gentlemen, in the history of religion, that it should be read over and over, meditated, reflected, over and over, to understand the challenges that religion has. Without Íqán, I do not see any future for religion. There is a reason that Shoghi Effendi says in the deepenings. Deepenings is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Deepening is not going and other people explain their understanding. Deepening is different from just gathering and reading prayer. Deepening means individually immerse in the ocean of his writing. Deepening means read passages on your own. I know social media gives you passages left and right, especially psychologically, you want to hear what you like. The future of the world will be very bad. Why? Because the people have not accepted the Bahá'í Faith. These type of notions are not helpful. Deepening means fundamentally think. Deepening means ask questions. Deepening means question your own way of thinking. And I want to take this opportunity to say if the religion doesn't believe in deepening, that religion actually causes the whole vitality of his follower to perish. And to my knowledge, neither Baha'u'lláh, Bab, Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the beloved Universal Laws of Justice ever told us deepening should be put aside. When Baha'u'lláh says deepen, when Abdul Baha emphasizes, when the beloved guardian, and when the Universal House of Justice creates a compilation called Deepening, when Shoghi Effendi literally begs people to read, to meditate, to reflect. So, Íqán is a way to get rid of fundamentalism. Íqán is a way to unravel the mystery of the old scriptures that mainly were symbolic. To end this, I would like to give you some study guide and then open to the questions. Do you know this book, from the moment that it was revealed, by the way, the person who wrote this book down was Abdul Baha Abbas. He was at the time 18 years of age. He was the first transcriber. And then after that, Baha'u'lláh made some additional comments, and then transcribers started transcribing. As far as I know, this book, at the time of Bahá'u'lláh, was transcribed by different people worldwide because of the fact that Baha'u'lláh emphasized its importance. This book, ladies and gentlemen, has been the source of studies by many, many scholars, Western scholars and Persian scholars. The concordances that are available to study this work are of different types. Some concordances, such as the one by Eshraq Khavari, 4 volumes, known as a concordance to Íqán or Qamus Íqán, he looks at it from the origin of the passages that Baha'u'lláh quotes in Íqán, or to be fair, reveals those passages. Another person that I want to mention that has done an excellent work for Íqán is my dear friend, teacher, Mr. Hooper Dunbar. When he wrote the companion to Kitáb-i-Íqán, he worked years, days, and nights to come out with that companion. And as you can see, he called it companion. That means do not make that a substitute. Do not read companion and say, I read Íqán. Do not read the passages that are quoted in the books, whether it is Ruhi, whether it is core curriculum, and then say, I read Íqán. No, Íqán is Íqán. Rest of them are the keys to understand and help you to understand Íqán. Another book that helps you is a Secret and Symbols by Christopher Bach. It's very, very important work to read. Another source, I say this and then I end it, is Revelation of Baha'u'lláh, Volume 1. To my knowledge, please forgive my memory, I'm getting old, this coronavirus especially, is, I believe it's chapter 10. But if it was 9, please forgive me, but I think it is chapter 10, Revelation of Baha'u'lláh, Volume 1, Habib Taherzadeh. Has a very good research-based study guide. Shoghi Effendi in God Passes By has a lengthy, precise, but concise analysis of the content of Íqán. My aim, ladies and gentlemen, is that I use the format that Shoghi Effendi has as far as the content is concerned, and in each session I go through that content and we can study it in advance and then we come up with questions. My suggestion is that you give your email somehow to Farshad or whosoever monitoring this meeting, and then I send the study guide either to Farshad or to you directly if I have the emails via Farshad, and then you can study it. Now, as far as whether this class should be continued one time in Persian, one time in English, I want to be honest, and please forgive me. I know you are muted, so you cannot talk and yell at me, but we are all in America. We have to deal with the people in America. And I do not think these people who are on this screen that I saw, they do not know English. So I leave it to you to decide, but I'd rather to have these weekly sessions in English. That way, we can actually learn from our Western friends, Eastern friends, and then we have a unified vision in action. So I want to offer the first item on consultation is that how many of you who are present would agree to continue in English, and I abide by your decision. That is the end of my remark, Parsha.
Thank you. I'm seeing some chats coming back that people are agreeing to having sessions in English. But I guess we have to keep in mind that there are some Persian speakers who might occasionally need some information in Persian too. So I guess we'll have to see. Everything that comes back is coming back in English. So far, I guess there is unanimous. It says everybody wants to continue in English.
Okay, what I can do for is we do it in English, and if there are some terminologies that needs to be said in Persian, I also use the Persian symbols or the original tongue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Now, I guess it's time to open up the floor for questions.
So it is English from now on, right?
As far as I can see, it says everything. It says English. So.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? You can just let me know. Okay, we have a couple of hands up. I see Sanaz I have somebody with iPhone. iPhone, who's iPhone?
Mehrad Goshen.
Okay, Mehrad Goshen. Go ahead, please.
I thought Sanaz was.
Oh, you go first, and then we'll. No, Sanaz does not have a hand up. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. For taking my question, Doctor. My question is, what is the logic behind the manifestations of God employing symbolism and mysticism to get their points across? Wouldn't it be effective if they would have had these symbolism aside and talk simply to people or to public?
Very good. Well, that's a very good question, Mehtajan. But assume, I know it is difficult, but assume you are a manifestation. You look good and you are a manifestation of your own, at your own capacity. Let's think logically. If the religion really is intended to last 1,000 years, or 500 years, or 50 years. See, I want to be very careful not to impose the duration for any religious system, because the time of the revelation is determined by the capacity of the humankind, majority, and then by the will of God. So these two factors determine the time of the revelation. Some of them have a minimum, some of them do not. For instance, you can see the duration between Moses and Jesus is over 1,000 years. The distance between Jesus and Muhammad is less than 1,000 years. You see the distance between Bab and Bahá'u'lláh is maximum 19 years. So the duration really is not determined by us. Or Bahá'í Faith, according to Aqdas, is at least 1,000 years. But the point that I'm making is this. If the manifestation wants to utter its meaning, content, which context should he adopt? Because the mindset of the person who lives at his time will not be the same mindset as 10 years later, 20 years later, or 100 years later, let alone 500 years later. Again, add another logical parameter. Within the same context of time and space that he appears, believers, even believers who accept him, are from different rank and station, different capacity. So what should he do? Well, Jesus said that I speak to some, the way it is, I speak to some in parables. Why? Jesus says. He says because some people do not have that ability to see the truth the way it is. Now, at the time of Muhammad, I give you an example and then I conclude. And Muhammad had a believer who was taking everything literally. There was another believer who would question him on everything. His name was Salman. One day, Muhammad, actually is a tradition, he says, if this man who was taking everything literally knew what was happening in the mind of the other one, Salman, he would kill him. Why? Because they were not ready. At the time of Muhammad, there were many people who, when they asked, where is heaven? They would answer, heaven is reunion with you, Muhammad. Where is hell? Hell is your ignorance from reality. Now, you imagine some people, such as Rumi, read the same Quran, but they got the gems out of it. Some people, such as Khayyam, Omar Khayyam, they read the same Quran, and they tried to break the fundamentalism. They said, don't take heaven and earth to be physical. Please don't think there is a river of wine. Don't think there are some houris that made of heavens are waiting for you. He said, these are all symbolic. What do you mean? What is my intention? My intention is, in fact, and Method John, I now put the hat of scientist. In fact, mathematics is the best tool that we have to define the world. But mathematics is an abstract phenomenon. The moment you make it subjective, it becomes limited. But when you look at it in an abstract level, it allows, according to Einstein, for imagination to sprout. This is why Einstein says more important than the thinking is the power of imagination. So as you can see, they do not say things symbolically in order to confuse you. In fact, they say things symbolically for the people who are insightful to know this is symbol. Why? Because in fact, Mr. John, world is symbolic reality. Everything is a symbol. You are sitting here is a symbol. how you look at me is a symbol. This is why Bahá'u'lláh says in a tablet which is called Commentary on the Sun. If you know Arabic, it is in the book called Majmu' al-Bab al-Mubarakeh, Chapter Mes, the first tablet. He says, when you look at the words of God, the revealed word, they have outer and inner. He says, those who only take the outer and they forget the inner, they diverge. And those who concern themselves with the inner and they forget the outer garment, they also get lost. The true learner, he says, is the one who looks at the inner meaning in the garment of outer symbols. So as you can see, in fact, psychologically speaking, symbols act like an archetype. These archetypes, throughout the ages, can have different contents, but the archetype stays the same. Sorry for the lengthy explanation.
Thank you. Is there any other question? I have my own question, Dr. Riazati. What is the role of rational thought or even philosophy in understanding religion? How do we approach philosophy or rationality?
Very good. See there, I know there are many people on this audience that we have that they are a critical thinker. See, we try to differentiate between religion, science, philosophy, psychology, but nobody is here to hear us, so it is between us. These are childish separation. The true science, true religion, true philosophy, true psychology, true sociology has one aim: to create an advancing material and spiritual civilization. You never can create civilization unless you ask question. Why? Do you remember Newton? Everybody, when the apple fell, just picked it up and ate it. And this is why majority of the people were fat, They were just eating. This young little boy asked a question from Grandpa. Why the apple fell? You know that why created one of the greatest minds ever lived on the face of the planet. So was he a philosopher? Was he a scientist? Was he a psychologist? Was he a religious? All the above. He has a book. Just read the introduction to his book. We think that religion teaches us humility. No. Religion is an instrument that helps you, such as philosophy teaches you, such as psychology teaches you. Philosophy is about asking questions. Psychology is about understanding the motive of behavior. Sociology is about understanding the interconnectivity and relationships. Logic is used to create an order in the universe. Now, do we need all of it? Well, why you go someplace far? Look at the Baha'i writings. Some answer question. It's one of the major philosophical work of Abdul Wahab, right? Look at Tablet of Wisdom, Lohe-o-Hikmat or Lohe-o-Kamal. You can see he praises Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. He considers himself to be a divine physician, divine philosopher. He believes in a divine philosophy. So those people who want to be fundamentalists, who are scared from question, because they are not firm, because they have not investigated the reality themselves. They just through convention, tradition, and the things of their forefathers, they have accepted something. Everything is holy, so do not make it moly for me. If you make the holy to become moly, then you are a covenant breaker. Then you have become excommunicated. We have seen this in Christianity, in Judaism, in Islam. When somebody came and questioned the finality of Muhammad, they said, oh really? They put him in the middle of the square, they put his book underneath him, and then they burned him to death. Philosophy means ask questions. Many people want to be just a robot. In, out. Well, let's see. Was Baha'u'lláh really from in Siachal of Tehran? He received the message in Persian Siachal in 1853. You all say, of course. Well, okay. But if somebody comes and says, see, my friend, what do you mean? If you're a fundamentalist, you say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Do you want me to call the counselor? You are questioning. You believe Baha'u'lláh said it. Well, somebody else might say, well, you want to tell me that Baha'u'lláh in 1853 became manifestation? Or in 1853 he revealed the innate message that he had? Which one is it? Why then Abdul Baha Abbas, in some answer question, doesn't take the declaration of Baha'u'lláh, I was sleeping on my couch? Was there really a couch? What couch? Why Abdul Baha Abbas says, this is symbolic, you Habib fundamentalist dummy. It is symbolic. Symbol of what? Abdul Baha, see this question. See, I'm trying to help you. Philosophy means go beyond the surface. Abdul Baha says, yes, I was sleeping means I was silent. Oh, now that makes more sense. Why? Because if Baha'u'lláh, according to the literist fundamentalists, I was sleeping on my couch means he didn't know what is what, suddenly he realized he is a manifestation, then those people have to answer more questions now. Then what was he doing in Badash in 1848 when he revealed a tablet in honor of each participant in Badash in 1848? What was he doing actually nominating the temporary successor for the Bab? Why we have tablets that Baha'u'lláh and Bab converse? So don't all of those questioning, please pay attention, philosophy. Questioning led you to ask more questions and become more harmonious in your belief system. If you do not allow philosophy, then the people, especially your young minds, leave you. accepted. I give you another one. Martyrdom of the Bab. Do you have a right to ask a question? No, 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 no. Why not? 750 bullets will attack, target, but the object doesn't really have any reaction as we expect. It is a good question. Don't kill the questioner. Don't judge the questioner. The answer is very clear. We cannot define the reaction of reality based on the current science. You can simply say what happened in that year to Bob and his reaction cannot be fathomed by the mind and the science at this time. But that doesn't mean it cannot happen. See, on one hand, you have faith that it will unravel. On one hand, you allow questions. But remember, the beloved Shoghi Effendi says, do you know, no matter what, please do not use that episode to prove the validity of the Bab. The validity of the Bab is through his influence on the heart and the mind. You see that? So now I actually raise another very question within your own question. Not that philosophy is good, not that critical thinking is good. Do you know why it is good? Because it removes assumptions which are faulty and then takes you to something wider horizon. And also, it makes you humble. Questioning means you do not know the truth. Those people who do not have question, they are closed-minded. Please pay attention. Questionings are of two types. You question to understand, and you question to undermine the authority. Don't do it. Authority is authority, regardless of whether you believe it or not. Question in order to understand something. And within that context, I do not see anything in the Baha'i writings that tells me that religion, science, philosophy, logic should not be harmonious. In fact, beloved guardian encourages the youth to study these things, study political science, study philosophy, in order to unravel the mystery of the religion.
Thank you. We have another question. Mr. Goshani, go ahead.
Please correct if I'm wrong. So the reality or truth is constrained by time and space, right? So it's a variable. Am I right or wrong, according to what you said? This is my understanding.
You are absolutely correct. Please pay attention. We live in a world which is governed by time and space. But time and space do not exist outside of human mind. This was something that Immanuel Kant paid very close attention, and this is something that Abdul-Baha Abbas actually affirms when in a tablet which you can see in Ma'arij al-Samani, he says, time is a construct. Time does not exist. This is why we have a subjective reality and an objective reality. Objective reality goes past time and space. It goes beyond the realms. When you say this world, next world, only for the domain of time, this and that makes sense. When you take away these domains, Mirza John, this world is a mirror of the next world, and the next world goes around this world. Make sense? Okay. How many more hours do we have, my friend?
Well, we have 10 more minutes. If there are no more questions, if you have any closing comments, just go ahead and finish.
So, no more questions?
No more questions. I don't see any questions.
Hey, Baba. So, everything...
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to ask questions. Thank you. It was really learning for me.
You're so kind. Well, the conclude. Yes, Baba.
I have a
Who has
question.
the question? Who has the question?
Atta.
Atta.
Atta. Okay, Atta, go ahead.
Mr. Riazati, is there any compilation that covers the correspondence between His Holiness Hazrat Bahá'u'lláh and Hazrat Allah? Is there any compilation?
Yeah, there is, in fact, one famous tablet that I suggest highly is in selection from the writings of the Bab, which Bab continuously talks to the one whom God shall make manifest. Also, according to Baha'u'lláh, in tablets such as Loh-e-Siraj, there were numerous communications, but most of those communications are not found yet, or some of them that are assumed to be the communication between them has to be searched and researched. And in fact, that is one of the tasks that I am doing to see whether this is really by the Bab, when did they communicate. But we know one thing, Atta John, and that is clearly when there was a communication about who should come after Bab temporarily, until Baha'u'lláh reveals himself, shows that there was communication between them. Also, we know that there was an hint, if you will, that these two have met each other also. In fact, there is a tablet by Baha'u'lláh, which is in Ma'ida Asmani, volume 4, that Baha'u'lláh alludes to the fact that, yes, when the Bab was going towards Maku, he attained the presence of Baha'u'lláh. Of course, after you see this tablet, you have to link it to other tablets. Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi categorically refute that reading. And they say all the communication of this twin manifestation has been in the form of tablets. And when he says it attained my presence, therefore, if I want to use Abdul Baha and Shoghi, it means in the form of a spirit, these communications.
Thank you. Any other question come to mind?
Thank you, Mr.
Good.
May I have a question?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is Bob.
Go ahead, Mr. Paul.
So, okay. My question is, it's what I understood, kind of the separation between Baha'u'lláh and Mirza Hossein Ali. My question is, it's Mirza Hossein Ali ever understand the stage of Baha'u'lláh?
Yes, see, I would like to use one of the tablets of Baha'u'lláh himself. Baha'u'lláh clearly outlines in a tablet which is called Lohe Hussein. It is important to remember the name of this tablet, that if tomorrow I die with coronavirus, at least you have the name of the tablets that you can pursue it from the Baha'i Book Center and read it yourself. That Baha'u'lláh, when they ask him about the stations of the manifestations, whether it is innate or it appears to their consciousness as the time passes. You see, Paul, it is your question, but in a more technical framework by Baha'u'lláh. Baha'u'lláh emphasizes potentially, yes, they are aware, but they wait until humanity is ready to reveal their station. In particular, the good example is the Bab. As you know, the Bab went through successive stages. He said, curse be upon whom who consider me to be the promised Qa'im. He even, according to Nabil's Dawnbreaker, you see that he went on Masjid Wakil and he said, La'nat Khuda, curse be upon whom who thinks I am the promised one. I am just a servant of the element Imam. I am simply a gate, Bab. And then you see that eventually he changed. He said, by gate, I do not mean the gate of Imam, I mean the gate to the unknowable essence. And then eventually they asked him, are you Qa'im? He said, of course I am Qa'im. Later on, he said, I am actually a prophet. Actually, I am a messenger. Actually, I am none of those. I am manifestation, the voice of God. Now, please pay attention to this passage that I'm quoting from 7 Proofs, Dala'il Sab'ah by the Bab. When he raises the question that why through different stages he introduced himself differently, was because he didn't know who he is, or it was something else. And then he says, the original goes like this, and then I translate it to the best of my ability. Dengar dar fazl Hazrat Muntasar. Just concern yourself, look upon the bounty of the one who everyone was waiting for. Bounty. He says, I, who the real station that I have is to be the mouthpiece of God. Mazhar Enni an Allah. I appeared as the Bab. And the reason I did it was because I didn't want to disturb people. مظهر انیان الله به اسم بابیت قائم اول محمد خود را در میان خلق ظاهر کرد که این خلق مضطرب نشوند. He says the reason that I went through these progressive stages was because I wanted people to be ready. And then he adds, he said, my aim is educating people. My aim is not just to impose in the station. No. Compare that statement in 7 Proofs for with many, many tablets, such as Lohe Hussein, that he says the primal point, meaning Bab, was concerned about the capacity, therefore he revealed his station according to the stage. So, was really Bab a manifestation in 1844, He himself says, well, I was waiting for 1,270 years, waiting for the seat of revelation who was Mullah Hussein. He says, I was awaiting for a capacity, a recipient in order for me to sit on that throne. This is why Baha'u'lláh in Íqán and Baha'u'lláh in tablet to the visitation of Mullah Hussein, he says, "O Mullah Hussein, if you were not there, God would not sat on his throne." That means there is a cause and effect, but was Bob really aware that he was a manifestation? Well, we have some works before 1844, which Shoghi Effendi considers as one of the major works of Bob. Or when Shoghi Effendi says the first work of the Bab was revealed at the age of 15, Risale Fiqhiyeh. Or you can see he has the tablet called Risale Suluk, Tablet of Turut Seeker. These are all before 1844. So did they know what was happening? Well, Fuad, I don't know. I am not them, but I only connect these tablets and I say, you can argue easily, as I did, that these individuals were the mouthpiece of God. They were not operating by time and space, but they were revealing their station according to the contingency of time and space.